So Cologne is up in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, which is kind of in the middle of Germany. And in German, it's actually called Köln. And so a lot of people there actually speak a specific dialect called Kölsch, but it's mostly the older generation. And so, for instance, there's a phrase in German which is "ist immer gut gegangen," which just means it's always gone well. You know, things will work out. And in Kölsch, it's "ist immer gut gegangen," and so they basically just take the G and turn it into a Y sound. It's really interesting. So you can always tell if someone's Kölsch if they say "gut" instead of "gut," which just means good. They have a very famous cathedral there. It's called the Cologne Cathedral, or in German, der Kölner Dom. And it's only about $3 to go to the top. I recommend it. Way fun, way pretty. You can go inside for free. Cologne is incredibly spread out. It's got about 2 million people in it. It's huge, and it's just very spread out. There's not a whole lot of tall buildings, but it just keeps going and keeps going. You'll be in parts where you think you're not in Cologne anymore because it'll have a different name, but it'll be Chorweiler Köln, like it's part of this Cologne area. The people there are pretty diverse. A lot of the people there are very open, very different, they're a lot different than people in the South. In the South, a lot of people are more conservative, and up in Cologne, they're a little bit of everything. And they say in Kölsch, jede Ecke ist anders, which means quite literally means like every crazy is a little different, but because everybody is just really interesting there. They celebrate a huge holiday for them. It's called Fasching, or Carnival, and everybody, the entire city. I wasn't there for it, unfortunately, but I've seen pictures, and I was somewhere else when it happened. But everybody, the entire town, dresses up like Halloween, and they just have this huge parade. Everyone gets wasted and drunk, but the public transportation in Cologne is humongous. You can get almost anywhere on either a streetcar or a bus, or take trains. If you ever serve in Cologne, you'll be taking a lot of trains. It takes about an hour to get anywhere, so make sure you plan ahead for that. The weather can go anywhere from really hot to pretty cold. I served there in the middle of summer, pretty much. I served there from about May until about September. And in June and July, it's just way hot. You're in this little bit of a dip right next to the river, the Rhine, which is also a pretty river. And it's just humid and hot, and then it'll rain one day and it'll be really cold, and the next day it'll be hot again, and then everything is just super humid, and then you're sitting in train cars with all these other people. Germans don't believe in air conditioning. Some places have it, but if you're lucky, but when you're sitting at home, you're just gonna kind of fry, or boil, I guess, because it's so humid. With crime in Cologne, I don't feel like there's a whole lot going on, but that's maybe because we were missionaries. You're not really allowed to own a gun in Germany, and if you are, it's incredibly controlled, so that's never really been much of a problem. There's a lot of diversity in Cologne. There's a lot of people from all over the world. There's a university there, so there's a lot of students. It's a huge demographic. It's just a whole lot of students. The prices there, if you're closer to the center of the city, the prices will go up because all the tourists are there. There's a lot of tourists in Cologne. They all want to see the big cathedral. They're also famous for their perfume, which is cologne from Cologne, but it's called actually Kölnisch Wasser, which just means like water from Cologne. So it's this I actually use it every time I shave with it. Pigeons, they're everywhere. Just don't kick a pigeon, because apparently there's a story where some missionary did once kick a pigeon, and someone caught it on the news. Someone took a picture of it, and it was on a newspaper, but it said Jehovah's Witness kicks pigeon. And apparently the mission president went and told them that it was actually a missionary who kicked it. We're really sorry. And the Post just said, well, we don't really care because it makes a story, so they didn't do anything. So don't kick pigeons in the wildlife of Cologne. The transportation system is pretty crazy. A lot of it all comes to the center. We had a card that covered our entire area, as well as parts of other people's areas, that we would use to travel whenever we needed to. And usually how it works is you just have it on your person, and every so often when you're sitting on the train, they'll have people come in with little kind of, I guess, either computer things or almost like a kind of ticket checkers. We just call them ticket checkers. And they'd come and this be like, can I see your ticket? You just show them that. And depending on who it was, they'd either just nod or they'd scan it and make sure, and they look at it and give it back to you. And if you get caught without a ticket anywhere in Germany, it's 40 euro, so always have a ticket. And those tickets usually don't work until 9 in the morning, so if you go anywhere early, make sure you buy a ticket. the housing, I lived on the 9th floor, which is actually technically the 10th floor, because Germans, they have the earth floor is just number 1. Like, I mean, no, floor number 1 to us is floor number 0 to them, or just E, which counts as the earth floor. And then everything after that is 1 through however high the building goes. And we were on floor 9. We were actually in basically a student's residence. It was anywhere from students to old people, and we had a door that didn't close all the way in our bathroom because we had the washer outside, and then the tubes went into the bathtub from and it was just kind of funny because it just wrapped around the door. And my companion, when I walked in, he said, "Well, welcome to Cologne. We have an open door policy here." So I was just, it's pretty packed in Cologne. There's a lot of people. So there's a lot of different houses, and they usually just keep stacking them, and they're all really small compared to living here in America. Everything, I didn't know that well, I've always heard the phrase, everything's bigger in America, but then when you go to Europe, you realize why, because everything there is just small. The streets are tighter, the houses are tighter, there's a lot more used with each space because they don't have as much space to work with. And so you walk in a room and you open up one door and you have to close that door before you can open up another door, kind of a thing, depending on where you're at. And it's just always just spread out and just stacked up as high as they can. In Cologne, there's a place in most German cities, they have what's called the Fußgängerzone, which is basically just this market street it's basically called the pedestrian zone. You can't drive a car on there unless you're delivering something to a company or something. And they just have shops on every side of anything you can name. You know, they've got all these, European brands. They've even got Burger Kings, like McDonald's. And on this pedestrian zone, if you're coming from the actual main train station, because it starts right there and it goes all the way until it's quite long in Cologne. They're not always this long, but this one just goes. And if it's somewhere in the middle, it's right next to CNA, kind of on that stretch, and it's this little place that sells French fries. Now, for us in America, we usually don't eat French fries unless we're eating it with a burger or hot dogs or something. But in Germany, they call it Pommes. And what they give you is they just give you this huge cone thing, and they just put all these fries in it. They're all like thick fries. And then they give you a different sauce, and then you eat it with a little fork. And right there, I don't know what it's called. I think it was just called like some Pommes place, and it was just really great. They have this really special sauce. It's called like Jopi Soße or something. But if you go to Cologne, I recommend it. Another thing that's actually pretty culturally popular in Germany overall is what they call a Döner. And basically I think there is an American kind of equivalent. I think they mentioned it in the Avengers movie, but I can't remember what it was called. But anyway, so they've got this big old thing of just basically a bunch of piles of meat on one big kebab, and then it rotates around a heater. And it's a lot of people that usually work at these places are from Turkey or from Romania or anywhere in East Europe that have immigrated here. But it is apparently originally German. And they just have this big thing of meat, and you order something, they take like a little kind of bun, and they'll either, if you get a really nice one or a traditional one, they'll slice it off with a little kind of sword, kind of knife. But a lot of people, they just have what looks like a hair razor, and they just shave off all this meat. They put it on, so you've got all these shred things of meat on a thing. Then they'll just put kind of like some salad stuff in it, a tomato. And if you want, you can get it super spicy. A lot of missionaries don't, because the spicy, depending on where you go or how long you've had spicy food, can be anywhere from mild to burn your face off. I once had one, and I couldn't taste the rest of the thing because I took one bite, and it was just so hot. But yeah, but a lot of people that are in Cologne are there's Germans, and then there's also a lot of people from Turkey and, Romania, Bulgaria, you name it. Most East European countries will migrate to, because Cologne is right next to what's called the Ruhrgebiet, the industrial area of Germany, where a lot of people came for work because there's a lot of stuff going on there. There's a lot of car manufacturers, a lot of coal back in the day, and just a lot of power plants and stuff is all in this area right next to Cologne. And so people will come here and go work there in the Ruhrgebiet.